So the DC movie universe has had its very fair share of problems, with movies not landing like they're supposed to, and a lot of casting issues, and some movies just being up in the air that no one really knows what's happening with them, especially the Flash movie. There's a lot going on between the directors and Ezra Miller and even the writers, and no one knows exactly what's happening until today, where we got a little bit of news that might shed some light on what's happening with the solo Flash movie. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another movie news video. My name is Joker, and today we're talking about the Flash movie for the near future and what exactly is going on with this thing. So there has been a lot going on with this movie since it's been mentioned and since the Justice League movie came out, and it's just really insane right now. There's been problems with Ezra Miller as the Flash, there have been problems with the writers, there have been problems with the tone, the directors. There's been a whole slew of problems, and the movie's not even in pre-production yet. And I mean, Ezra Miller, I think he's great for the role, but there have been a lot of people complaining about how he's not that great of Flash. He doesn't seem to play Barry Allen as well, and a lot of the issues, I think, are because there's also the Flash TV series in the CW universe, and Grant Gustin is who's playing the Flash in that, and everyone is comparing it to his performance there, saying that they're just too different, and that Grant Gustin is the way to go, and that Ezra Miller is not the Flash that they want for the DCEU, so they're just bashing him for how he portrays his character. And then there's a lot of problems with the script. Ezra Miller wants a very dark Flash movie, somewhat kind of like Justice League and Batman v Superman, but people are saying no, so they wanted to get rid of him, and they brought in different writers. It's a giant mess right now, and no one exactly knows exactly what is actually going to happen with this movie. But we did recently get some groundbreaking news on the subject that makes me think that maybe Ezra Miller might be getting the Flash movie that he wanted all along, and it might actually be well versed for the DC universe. So going back a little bit, like I just mentioned, Ezra Miller was almost dropped from the project because he wanted a darker tone to this movie, even writing his own script. And that even got thrown out when Warner Brothers and the writers were like, yeah, this just isn't what we want. So they threw out the script, and then they almost got rid of Ezra Miller because he just didn't want to do the movie if he couldn't do his version of the Flash movie. And at the time, the directors were John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, which they had creative differences with Ezra Miller over how they wanted the movie to go. And then they had the problems with Ezra Miller, and I'm guessing that Warner Brothers really wanted to keep Ezra on the project, but they just wanted different directors. So now Goldstein and Daley have dropped from the project, and we have a new director in the works, in talks possibly, for taking over their role. And now Warner Brothers is in talks with IT director Andy Muschietti to actually be the director for the Flash movie, and this leaves a lot of doors open and a lot of options of what could actually happen with this movie. So Andy Muschietti, he directs It. That's a horror movie, right? And just when you hear that, you got to think about it. Warner Brothers has been riding this train for as long as they physically can of just getting horror directors to direct their superhero movies for them, and it's working. I don't exactly know what the formula is, but hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? They took a long shot with James Wan for Aquaman. As soon as I heard that he was attached to the project, I instantly became obsessed with it. I was like, absolutely. James Wan is a fantastic director. His work with the Conjuring series is amazing. Putting him in the shoes for Aquaman, I think that would be a great bet. And look what happened. The movie did fantastic. It had a great story. It made $1 billion at the box office. This is the kind of stuff that can't be ignored. So they took another risk and tried it again, so to speak. I don't know if this was actually their formula or not for horror directors per se, but with that in mind, they ended up getting David Sandberg to direct Shazam, another horror movie director. Now, the movie didn't make $1 billion at the box office, but we got a great superhero origin story, and it just worked, and everyone seemed to like it, and that's exactly the direction that everyone wanted to go. They didn't like the dark tone of the superhero movies, so instead they just brought in dark tone directors to make happy movies. I don't know how this game works, but it's working for them, and I think that's exactly what they're thinking of by getting Andy Muschietti to direct this movie. And I don't think it's exactly because he's a horror director as much as it is when it ties in with Ezra Miller's idea of what he wanted this Flash movie to be. And it just begs the question, when you think about it, what is it about horror directors that makes them so successful when talking about superhero movies? And I think there's two big things that happen. One is that they can add their own horror aspects to the movie. In Aquaman, we had a lot of talk about the trench and how there was a lot of weird, creepy stuff down there, and now it actually looks like we're going to be getting a spin-off from Aquaman entitled The Trench, which is going to be a more horror side of the DC universe in the Aquaman area, which I think is an interesting route to take with that. I don't know what it has in store for the rest of the DCEU, but I mean, if it works, why not? And then we even got some really creepy scenes in the Shazam movie with the 7 deadly sins attacking people in an office, and it was just really dark and gruesome, and it's just one of those things that works. So it's the ability to put in other tones in movies that you're not really expecting, and it just plays off, which is especially important because horror balances tones in movies, especially when you have a giant blockbuster of a superhero movie, so to speak, where you've got tones coming in left and right, and you don't exactly know where everything's going to go, but you can balance it with horror, and it just adds to the story. It adds weight to the story. It adds there's consequences that can happen with certain parts of this movie, and it just helps the whole thing hold together and makes the story that much more enticing and makes you just really want to focus on it. And I think we've seen that perfectly with Aquaman and Shazam, especially since Shazam had the 7 deadly sins as the main villains of this first opening movie alongside Dr. Sylvanas. But with all of this in mind, when you bring it back, it leaves a couple questions to be answered. Ezra Miller left because of creative differences with the directors. Now that they have a horror director, it claims that Ezra Miller is back on the project to stay as the Flash. But will he stay as the Flash? There's already been a lot of talks of the dropping of Ben Affleck as Batman, and they're still up in the air, and there's no response to Henry Cavill reprising his role as Superman because we have nothing on a Man of Steel 2, which absolutely needs to happen. So it's just wondering, are we going to keep everyone that we originally had? I mean, sure, we've got Jason Momoa staying as Aquaman, and we have Gal Gadot staying as Wonder Woman, and if we lose Ezra Miller, might as well just rehash the entire cast because there's no continuity with the characters. Sure, that's a little bit of a different thing, you have different actors that play it, but if you want the look and you want the continuity, you want to try to keep as many people as you can. So if bringing in a horror director is what keeps Ezra Miller in the position of the Flash, whether people like it or not, I think you should go for it. But it also makes you think that with Muschietti in charge of directing it, will we get that dark kind of script that Ezra was wanting to begin with? Are we going to get something that's going to be more like that, and that's the reason he's staying on board? Or are they just going to take a direction in some of the scenes and have a more horror, scary, spooky aspect to it because he's a horror director? But it leaves me with one question that I will leave you guys. I want you guys to talk about it in the comments down below, or if you have me on Twitter, at me on Twitter, and tell me your opinions on it. What do you think is going to happen? Let's talk about this. But will they find a new Flash? Will Ezra Miller actually be the Flash that we see in this upcoming Flash movie? Because we've got so many things to talk about here. New directors, new people writing the movie, new way that the movie is going to be going, new directions for the movie. Do you think all of this is going to either, in the end, keep Ezra Miller on board, or is it going to be completely different than what he wanted to do originally, and Warner Brothers will just decide to let him go and hire someone else to take the role? Let me know in the comments. I want to talk about it. But until we get more concrete news, I don't think we're going to get anything at San Diego Comic-Con this year, unfortunately, but as soon as I hear something, I will be sure to let you guys know about it. But until that happens, that is going to be it for this video, guys. Remember, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of all this news about the Flash movie. Are you excited for it? Are you really worried about it? Do you want this movie to do well? Do you not even care at all? Let me know. I want to talk about it. But until then, and as always, I will see you guys next time.